KTN.
Crossing borders, the ongoing crisis in DRC, and tonight the government has strongly condemned the attack and looting of its embassy in Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Demonstrators targeted several diplomatic missions, including those of Kenya, the United States, France and Uganda, amid protests over the ongoing conflict in eastern DRC. As Phoenix All Watch reports, M23 rebel forces have been spotted patrolling parts of Goma, which has reportedly fallen under their control.
Looters ransacked embassies in Kinshasa as security forces struggled to restore order. On the other end, the French embassy was engulfed in flames set by the protesters. The Kenyan embassy in the Gombe district was not spared in the chaos, as protesters accused the targeted nations of contributing to the conflict and mineral exploitation in the region. They also alleged that these countries have turned a blind eye as Rwanda arms and supports the M23 rebels. The government has condemned the attack and called for accountability.
It is imperative that all parties adhere to the ceasefire agreements under the Luanda peace process. The continued violation of ceasefires only prolongs the suffering of the civilian population and exacerbates the conflict. A firm commitment to peace must be made by all parties.
President William Ruto, who chairs the East African Community, had earlier urged all parties to cease hostilities.
It is my belief that this engagement is absolutely necessary because we do not see, from where I sit, a possibility of a military solution to the challenges that faced Eastern DRC.
Ruto is expected to hold the talks with Rwandan President Paul Kagame and DRC's Felix Tshisekedi. Meanwhile, in Goma, M23 rebels have been seen patrolling the key areas of the city, which serves as a major hub in the eastern DRC. The United Nations has accused Rwanda for arming and supporting M23, accusations Kigali denies. For Rwanda and Uganda, being part of the conflict in DRC is not new, having played a significant role in the past conflicts, including the two Congo Wars and the overthrowing of the long-term ruler Mobutu Sese Seko in 1997. Before the latest escalation in violence in eastern DRC, some 5.1 million people had already been displaced by years of insecurity in the mineral-rich region of Kivu and forced to live in overcrowded camps with little food and no security. Phoenix Oluoch, KTN.
All right, that is the situation in Goma in eastern DRC, and we want to get a live update on what exactly is happening. And joining me for this conversation is Christian Rumu, who is a senior campaigner DRC from Amnesty International. Good evening, Christian. Thank you so much for making time for us here on KTN Prime. Of course, UN agencies have warned that the next 24 hours are critical. Paint a picture of the situation in Goma.
So the picture in Goma right now is really in dire need of humanitarian assistance, as well as the protection of civilians. So what we have seen throughout the day yesterday were, indiscriminate shooting, explosions throughout the city, and that was really putting civilians' life at risk. We have seen reports from humanitarian organizations and hospitals being overstretched because of the casualties that they are receiving and treating currently. So we do hope that all parties to this crisis will abide by international law and make sure that civilians are protected and humanitarian assistance is facilitated in and around Goma right now.
All right, today there were protests in Kinshasa that led to the attack on several, embassies, including Kenya's, Uganda's, France, and UN buildings. Why is the anger directed to different countries? Many might ask.
Yeah, I think we might want to, separate the illegal activities that, happen in some in Kinshasa to, legitimate expression of hopelessness of many Congolese of the situation, of the ongoing situation in eastern parts. So it has been more than 30 years. The crisis in the Congo, it has been more than 30 years. So people are angry on, the regional community, the international community, their own authorities, the failures that the different DRC Congolese regimes to solve once for all the crisis in the East. So it's from that's my reading, that you see the types of expression of anger that we have seen today in the street of Kinshasa. But also, it also sent a clear message, some message actually, to regional and international leaders of their roles and the failures, that's, the responsibility of failures to not hold those responsible of the ongoing crisis in the DRC over the past 30 years to account. So accountability, just accountability, has to be at the center of any process, the Luanda process, the Nairobi process, to make sure that to show that regional and international leaders are serious about solving the Congo crisis once for all.
All right, as you've mentioned, we need accountability, and it's high time we solve this crisis once and for all. 20 years and over down the line, and we've seen that President William Ruto has equally called for a regional presidents meeting. From where you sit as Amnesty International, perhaps, do you see light at the end of the tunnel, considering that this is not the first time that we've seen, the rebels seize Goma? I think it happened in 2012 for about a week. Are we likely to get a solution once and for all?
Without accountability, frankly, I don't see it. There is a number of agreements that have been signed between the DRC and various, armed groups over the past 30 years. So I do really hope, and this is really our call, that for this time, the regional leaders have to be serious and hold their peers to account. Make sure that they place just an accountability, the suffering of the people of the DRC and of the region to the center of their discussions, not necessarily on, who gets what at the end of the day. So just an accountability must be center and crucial. And beyond even the regional leaders, the International Criminal Court, which has resumed its investigation into the DRC, as announced last year, they need to make sure that they are investigating and monitoring the situation in the DRC closely and ensure that those who are responsible of gross international humanitarian violation and human rights violation are held to account. Because if you look at the actors right now in place, people who are involved in leading the M23 troops or in some offices in the DRC, these are people who have been named in several reports of human rights violations over the past 30 years. So the accountability and justice has to be a key part of these different processes at the regional and international levels.
All right, thank you so much, Christian Rumo. He's the senior campaigner, Amnesty International. And of course, we'll be monitoring